morning, Profit Circle. Wayne Bowles coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, indeedy. Oh, my goodness. Looky there. We got our first text of the day coming in as we're popping on there. And, oh, my goodness, we got a great show planned today. Appreciate you guys hopping in here with us. And Daniel's going to be on here in a little bit with me. But Katie is out of town this week. She sent me a text earlier. She is walking toward the castle down there at Disney World. I had to think about it for a minute. Like, all right, where's the castle? But yeah, she's down at Disney World with a big old group of people. So I'm sure they're having a good time down there, or hopefully they are anyway. And they're just got their adventure underway Monday. So they're rocking and rolling pretty hot and heavy down there. So enjoying their time. I told her to send us a few pictures. So we're trying to hold the fort down here at the office. And I think we're doing pretty good between, me and Kyle and Daniel. We got this ship floating. Yeah, we're keeping it afloat and keeping it rocking and rolling. And, hey, I hope you guys are having a good day today. And weather is outstanding here. So good morning, Heckabus. Appreciate you listening in, my friend. He said he's not driving this time. Damn. All right. Well, would y'all's van break down or what? Oh, Lordy. But no, not driving this morning. They've been on a heck of a tour with their product going around the country. Him and Scott, I believe Scott was the gentleman's name. And they got a pretty good little product. Matter of fact, I'm going to reach over here and see. I got their card over here. I was going to talk to you guys about that for a second anyway this morning. But it's DGP, bio-based lubricants. And if you haven't had a chance to check them out, be sure to go ahead and check them out. It's great product. They came by our office, a couple weeks ago. And, yeah, glad to have them stop by. Scott, my old buddy Heckabus. Don't get to see him very often, Heckabus, but he rode by here as they was cutting through to down toward Nashville, and then they progressed on from there. So they're logging quite a few miles, to say the least. So, but they are doing it and getting it done, just like we talk about, right? Let's get it done. But no, man, we're having great weather here this week. It rained most of last week. I wasn't here. I was down in almost said the wrong place, Hilton Head. Almost said Myrtle Beach, but I have a hard time with that. But actually, Daniel's getting ready to sneak out of here. He's going down to Myrtle Beach for the weekend. Him and Caitlin. So. Hope they have a great time. That's always cool to take a quick little road trip like that. So hope you guys have a good time, Daniel, on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I get to try to run the equipment myself. Good morning, Mike Murphy. Appreciate you listening in, buddy. And there's Doug Brown. Doug, I appreciate you listening, my friend. Hope things are going good for you up in Pennsylvania. I know we're getting a lot of good work done this morning. And all week. I mean, it's just been a really, really good week. Take advantage of it. Looks like next week is going to be more summer type weather, maybe some afternoon scattered showers. But you know what? We're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to think about, okay, what are we doing now? What are we doing today? And we'll do them one day at a time. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So, John, good morning. Appreciate you chiming in here with us, buddy. And you guys, as always, can feel free to text as well. You can reach me. I know we've had a few people new sign up as well to listen to us here. So you can reach us directly at 502-550-8307. That's 502-550-8307. And we're glad to have you. Glad to have you guys you with us. You veterans that have been with us for the long haul through the Profit Circle. Appreciate that. And you new guys coming in with us, we certainly appreciate that. Doug, I feel you, man. I feel I send any help your way, man, that mentally can help. Doug said he's having an employee nightmare day. I hear you. It's just like I don't know. It's a Hey, matter, Doug, I got to share something with you, and I'm going to just go ahead and say it. I ran into a guy last night that I've known for, I don't know, a long time, probably 30 years. He came to one of our very first seminars that we did here in Louisville um, back in like 1991 when we were doing them here at our shop. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing this story with you guys, but I saw him last night, so turned around and came back and talked to him for a minute. His name's Jeff Winter, and he's got a company here in Louisville called Blade Runners, and nicest guy in the world, Doug, and got a decent little business rolling too. Runs several crews and whatnot. But he was talking about the employee nightmare for him too this year. And like he said, it ain't this year. It's all the time, and it really is kind of amazing. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we've been pretty fortunate. We did have a guy disappear just off the face of the earth in between Memorial Day and coming back to work after Memorial Day, or yeah, that'd be the right time frame on that. So, we last week when it was raining, we had Memorial Day, didn't work. Tuesday it rained us out, and then Wednesday we got back to work, and then guys like, hey, I'm on my way. I'm just running a little behind. Never showed up. Never heard another word. So, and that guy's been. He was new this year with us, but he's been a pretty decent hand, and just the gone south. So man, that's the magic wand. If somebody could come up with that magic wand, and I know a lot of people talk about this and that, and hell, I mean, we even talk about employees and how to, we're very fortunate with it here. We got a really good core of people, but it's like you could always just use like one more or two more, with that same mental attitude. And that's what it really goes back to. And I'm not saying we're perfect here at Wayne's Lawn Service. We're not, by any stretch of the imagination. But we do offer a really decent place to work, a very, very competitive pay, and with benefits. Paid time off. Paid time off, insurance. Retirement plans that they can engage in if they want to, that we participate in. I mean, if somebody just really wants to be in this industry, and they can do it, and they can do it here and do it effectively, and then make a nice living with it. But I don't know. It just seems, if you need one, if you need two, you get one. If you need three, it doesn't matter how big your company is. You can be a single truck operation. Because I had these same frustrations back in 19, gosh, I was going to say 79 when I started, but that's not true because it was just me mowing lawns by myself then. And then my first helping hand was my best friend, David. And hell, even he wasn't the most dependable person in the world to help out. And hell, we were only doing about 12 or 15 lawns that summer when we started doing that as part-time gig like a lot of you guys do, and hell, in high school. So it makes the world go around, But
like I said, he might be interested in employment.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'll tell you what, that would be the coolest thing ever, man. If you could organize the right group of business owners and get together, But because I know a lot of you guys are still enjoying the field work side of it too, And I know one thing for me, and for us at Wayne's Lawn Service, I mean, we just decided to go subcontractor route with a lot of it. It's just a whole lot easier to go out and find subcontractors that enjoy what they're doing, like to do they like doing the work, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're just not big in the selling side or don't want to do the marketing, advertising, billing, collections, that whole part of the business side of the business. And we've been very fortunate with that. And we've got a really good group of subcontractors that we utilize and that get a lot of work done for us. So, um, but anyway, so Doug, I know that doesn't help you in the right now, in the right now moment, man. But as you know, Doug's been doing this a long time too, and the reality of it is, I mean, you got good days and bad days. I mean, when it comes to that side of it, or any side, but certainly employee side. But Jeff was telling me that he's had some similar frustrations again this year. And like he said, man, it's 35 years of it. And I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it, but I mean, I really think that may be outside of not knowing and understanding cost per hour of operation. Employees might be the toughest side of it. And I can say this in my limited experience of being an employee, we had employee issues when I worked at the corporate level. People not coming to work, people calling in sick, their dog ate their homework kind of stuff. And actually, Tabitha and I were talking about this a little bit last night after we were talking with Jeff, and it was she said one time she told Daniel, this is a funny story. One time, when her kids were little, she was talking about she was late for work about 15 minutes, getting them by the time she got dropped off at daycare. For whatever reason, she was about 15 minutes for work and late. And her boss asked her where she was at. Why are you late? And she said, I told him, well, I got stuck in traffic. There was a giraffe in the road. And I said, oh my God, I'm using that tomorrow. I got to tell everybody that one, because between all of us, Craig, good morning. We've all heard a lot of stories, right? I mean, we've all heard a ton of stories and excuses. And but I think the excuse that she gave her boss, and she was just joking, but she said there was a giraffe in the road that had things blocked up. I said I've never ever heard that. And matter of fact, I had a really great friend of mine. He's passed away, I don't know, about 8 or 9 years ago now, maybe longer. And but Tom Simpson was his name. He had a company here in Louisville called B&S Landscaping, and Tom came from a very rural community here in central Kentucky called Horse Cave. And he and his dad and their family they farmed for a living. And Tom told his dad, he's like, I need to get up here and I need to get out of farming, man. I'm gonna try something different. So he came to Louisville, started a business, and he was telling me one day, he said, really, I thought I was changing. But he said, this is the same as farming almost. Everything you do is weather dependent, and, it's drought this and no rain this or too much rain and all those parameters that affect all of us, no doubt about it. But Fred, appreciate you hopping in with us, my friend. Appreciate you hopping on. And but Tom said, we all get a lot of different true. Mike said we're grass farmers, so that's awesome. So, but Tom said, the excuses that he got, he went to, and I've shared this before in talking with you guys, but for you new guys out there, Tom said they had a board up in his office where it just had numbers on it with what the excuse was. So instead of saying I had a flat tire, and isn't it amazing? I just want to bring this out, and I just want your all's opinion on this too. Isn't it absolutely amazing what they will tell you in a text on why they're late? I mean, I just it can't just be what we hear sometimes. And I gotta say this, and Daniel vouch for this. We're pretty lucky, aren't we? I mean, we don't have a whole lot of that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, most of our steady people are pretty good.
yeah, they're dependable. I mean, you can set a route and know you're going to get your work done 99% of the time, unless something really is going on, you know. But but you know, you get these texts like, "I've." Is it okay to say diarrhea?
Sure, it's our show.
You know, it's our show.
It's our platform.
But yeah, you know, I mean, I want to know some of the funny things you guys have heard too. You know, but I mean, you know, they'll tell you, "Oh man, I'm on my way and I've had to stop 2 times on the way to work already," and you know, you just get all these excuses that you're like, is this for real? You know, is this for real? I mean, but anyways, hell, that wasn't even going to be our show, Doug. But thanks for getting us off on that tangent this morning.
Well, I think
So,
you know, before we move on from that, I think you mentioned knowing your cost is obviously one of the biggest struggles, and employees might be right up there, number 2. And I think it's a struggle on a like on a real playing field for everyone, whether you know your cost or not.
right,
And it's a struggle both physically. It's a real struggle, but it's also a mental struggle, because I think the biggest thing is, as much as we talk about setting things up with culture and benefits and keeping people around and trying to do that right and treating people well and all that kind of good stuff, you're still reliant on someone else. You know,
right,
it's like you can do everything right and then they don't participate. You know, with a lot of other things within your business, you do the thing and it works because you did it, and there you go. You know, you find your cost, you run your business with that. There's not a third feature out there that messes with that. You know,
right,
and the same is true with a lot of other factors, but with employees, it truly is. There is another factor out there, and that's the employee.
right.
And I think that's why it's always somewhat of a stress, no matter how big or small or successful or unsuccessful you are.
Yeah, right. And that is true, whether you're a one truck operation waiting for one person like I used to when it was me and a truck and another guy, you know. But John said, yeah, 2 weeks ago he had a guy call and said he had to go home. He pooped in his pants. I mean, why wouldn't you just say I had an accident? You know, I had an accident and I had to go home and change clothes or something. You know, I just thought, gosh, I don't know. But
Corey's.
Oh my goodness. But anyways, let's see. Corey's got something funny going here for us. He had a flat, but the photo was a flat tire inside the house. It wasn't his rim. Day 2, he was in a police interrogation room because of, oh my God. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Corey, you might be winning some of these, you know. Gosh, I don't know.
Pretty unique, to say the least.
Oh my God.
When it comes
yeah.
to back-to-back days.
That is crazy. That is crazy. Oh my God. So, speaking of which, goodness gracious, where would Kyle come in here? I even take care of this. Oh Lordy. But I don't know. Mike Murphy had a guy would text and say, not coming in today. Won the lotto. No, just kidding. I overslept. Be there in about 10. It is funny. It is. You can get very creative. This is why Tom Simpson's idea of the number board was, you know, outstanding idea. So I don't know. Maybe that's the takeaway from our show today is the number board. Just come up with some numbers and we'll go with that, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, you know, Mike makes a good point. At least if they're just honest and say, hey man, I overslept. You know, it happens to some people, right?
Yeah.
I can honestly say I don't know, my working life, I've never been late to work because I overslept. I mean, even when I was working for somebody else, I mean, I think we're really getting off on a tangent, but that's okay. You know, I think that starts at home when you're small. I mean, that training of, okay, you're going to get up, you're going to do this, you're going to, I know we had to get up, make our bed every day. I'm growing up. I mean, that was just the first thing we did. Wasn't go eat breakfast. It was get up, go to the bathroom if you had to, and then you know, come back, make your bed, and then roll out, and go
Right.
do what you wanted to do. That was just, but oh Lord, Corey said between me and another guy that does lawn care, the same guy that they both employed had grandfather died 4 times.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, it is amazing. So I don't know. We always work through it. We do. We always work through it, but we do the best we can. And let's just go with that. We'll do the best we can. So, anyways, with that being said, hey, we're going to do the best we can. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with more profit time here on the Profit Circle. Craig sent us a good one, Daniel. It says, had a former employee tell me one day he was taking the next day off, not asking, telling, you know, so he could go to the beach with his girlfriend. He had already called out that day because he was sick, so I let him go. Of course, he threatened to have his attorney contact me. Oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh.
Oh Lord, I know. They're
Legal experts.
yeah, they're legal experts. Everybody's done them wrong, and it's just so nice to be surrounded with fortunately some very good people here at Wayne's Lawn Service. I will say that, you know, but oh my gosh, we have over 47 years. You can imagine, what we've dealt with, but
Mike,
um,
and with his comment, you can still find the recorded episodes of the show. Will be on YouTube, our YouTube channel, Profits Unlimited.
so
So go and check that out there.
So, for our new listeners that we have tuned in, Daniel, would you mind sharing how they get access to that rather than that quick version right there?
Yeah. So for the Profit Time show, the recorded version, you can listen to that, watch it, listen, however you want to do it on YouTube, the YouTube app, youtube.com, whatever. Simply go to youtube.com, search Profits Unlimited, Profit Time, will come up, will pop up, and that's where it'll be. It'll be on our channel, and they actually have a tab if you go to our home page, our main channel page on YouTube. There's a tab at the top called Podcast, so you can go there, and it's organized very nicely there. Over, I think we started uploading to YouTube maybe 18ish months ago now, so all the episodes from then will be there, and yeah, you can go back and listen. We're uploading those every day or after every show right there on YouTube. So very easy to find, easy to stream, easy to hopefully do everything. But if you do have questions, you can always feel free to, reach out to us on that.
Corey said he had a very similar situation about the beach. Oh, Lord. Corey said he told him he wouldn't be giving me more rides to work. So I could spend time with my family instead of you. So, goodness gracious. Quick question, Daniel. Daniel's, as you all know, is our tech expert
Okay.
here. Can everybody see these comments as well?
Yes.
Okay, so good. All right.
Yes, it's an open chat.
Good deal. All right. So, Corey, that's another thing and we'll talk about that just for a second for you younger guys that may be in here. That's something that never worked out for me either, was rides. I tried, I really tried to help people out, but gosh, I remember when I lived, and this isn't going to mean anything to most of you guys, but I lived about 13, 14 miles from the shop here, and in a community called Mount Washington, Kentucky. But anyway, so I lived out there, and I would stop and different people that I hired over time, I'd stop and pick them up, because that was my help for the day, uh, reality wise, and there was nothing more frustrating when you go to pick somebody up and they're not outside. The first 2 or 3 days, it's all good, man. They're waiting there, they're smiling, they got their lunch packed, they look like Yogi Bear, carrying a little lunch pail. But but then it progressively gets a little worse, where you got to knock on the door, and or back then everybody didn't have cell phones, so you couldn't call them. You know, but it progressively got worse, and finally, that was one of the decisions I made. Was I'm not giving anybody a ride anymore, man. If you can't get to work, you know,
Yeah.
and that was like the guy that disappeared. He didn't have a way to work. He's like, man, can y'all come get me? No, no, I'm not your daddy. I'm not coming to get you. Now, if somebody has a one-off event,
Right.
that's completely different. But I'm not going to be your mode of transportation each and every day. I mean, you got to have a little bit of accountability, I think, is what it really boils down to. So, um, and speaking of accountability, I want to give a shout out to Katie on her webinar that she did a couple weeks ago for us on work-life balance in the profit circle. If you haven't had a chance to go back and check that out, do so. And funny part about it is, I was listening to something the other day, Monday, I think it was Monday, and the person said, uh, there is no such thing as work-life balance. And I just want to say that I want to throw that out there. My opinion of that is that's completely wrong. I think you need work-life balance.
Right.
I spent several years of not having work-life balance in my business, thinking I had to grind all the time. They're like, oh man, we just love working and we got to grind and we like grinding. And, I mean, that's not what's going to make your company successful.
Right.
I just want everybody to understand that. No personal life is not what's going to make your company successful. That is the furthest thing away from the truth. And if anybody listening to us right now live disagrees with that, you will not hurt my feelings. I mean, tell me, Wayne, that's not true. That's not right. It's all about work, 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 because Wayne thought that was the right answer. Now, when you start your business, obviously, there is a lot of long hours, or anytime there can be long hours in your business, regardless of how long you've been in business. But if it's a perpetual thing going over and over and over and over and over again, you need to look at your structure and your procedures and your efficiencies, and I say, hey, what's broke? Why am I working 24/7, not literally, but I don't have any time to go watch my kids baseball game or soccer game, or go to the lake, or go play pickleball, or whatever it is you want. I don't care. Read a book.
Right.
There's got to be some balance. What, Daniel?
I just think that that's a lack of organization and management. Like, sure, anyone can be busy. It's not impressive to be busy. There's 5 million things in a day that anybody can do, and you can start doing, and you can implement, and you can try out, and like, sure, that's all great. But if you're busy, are you getting anything done? What's
Yeah,
actually getting achieved if you're always busy?
yeah.
Because if you're always busy, it's not the exact same, but it's kind of like multitasking in a way. It's like, and it's been shown that multitasking, and Katie and I actually touched on this, and I hadn't actually gone back and checked the exact stat on this, but it was something like you're 50% less productive when you're multitasking.
I can believe that.
But to that point, like, if you're always just doing and you're never like taking a step back, and this is something really important. I read a little like mini article, newsletter, whatever you want to call it, on the other day. It was talking about like leadership and stuff. But, and obviously being a business owner, you're a leader, whether you're leading other people or leading yourself, you have to be able to step back and evaluate from, uh, kind of from a distance. You have to be able to step back from whatever you're doing, whatever, your business or as the whole, or, with a certain policy and procedure or whatever. You have to be able to step back. And if you're constantly so busy that you can never do that, you don't get perspective on what's going on.
No.
If you're living your life and you don't know what day it is because it feels like every day's, just running into the next, you're not
If every day's a
doing
snow
anything.
day,
You're not building. You're not,
yeah.
you're really just kind of walking on a treadmill at that point. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
You've taken 10,000 steps and you're still in your living room.
That's a really good comparison, Daniel. I because that's exactly what I did. I mean, I did do that. It was all about work, work, work. But my problem, and um, what was broke for me. Let me say this: what was broke for me was what we talk about here on Profit Time a lot is cost per hour of operation. It was broke, and I thought I was going to fix it with more work, and more work meant more time away from family and friends and things that I like to do. So the solution is, that's the good thing when you look at our industry, and we're kind of getting off on a little tangent, but that's okay because it's good. When you look at the failure rates for our industry, it's generally not through a lack of effort.
Yeah.
It's not. When you look at it, it's generally financial. It's normally financial on why somebody either decides to get out. It's just work, 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 and I'm not making any money. And I mean, I've heard it a million times from all over the United States and Canada that is the reoccurring issue,
Mm-hmm.
but
well, to Doug's point too, like he's saying he kind of feels like he falls into that category sometimes. It's not necessarily the fact that we have to sometimes work a lot or long hours or whatever, or we even find ourselves always doing that. That's the problem. That's problematic. But the problem is having the mindset that you shouldn't have work-life balance, that you aren't
right,
aspiring to get there.
Correct. That's what my issue was with it too.
Yeah, we all go through periods, and sometimes they're longer for other people than others, but where it is more of a grind, that's just part of the thing. But that shouldn't be your daily goal is, oh, I can't wait to see how many hours I can work today. It's let's see how much we can get done today and be effective and efficient and achieve a goal that actually moves us towards something that then leads us towards work-life balance.
Right.
Like if you're working really hard Monday through Friday and getting things done, and it's like, okay, it might be more so like 80-20 on work-life balance Monday through Friday. You still have the occasional thing you might be able to go to on a weeknight, and it's like, okay, a baseball game or whatever you're talking about. But the 80% should be leading you then to, oh, well, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, I get to be more 80-20 or 90-10 with the life balance side of the equation. But if it's like, oh, well, let's just go and do 100% Monday through Friday. So then on, Saturday and Sunday, we can also just go 100% work. Like,
yeah.
What are you doing? What's the point of that?
So that
is toiling. That's not working. That's not production.
Yeah.
That's just, oh, let's go see how far we can dig a hole till we reach the other side of the world.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything with that.
Right. That is exactly the case. And, something that I've learned finally, and this took me a long time to learn. I don't want you guys to be as slow learner as I was, is that I was better for my company once I decided that I needed to have time off. Because when it's that work, work, work all the time, no time for yourself, no time for your family, going out thinking, man, I got to sell one more job. And hell, I did that. I mean, that was my mindset, man, I got to sell another job. I got to sell another job. And there's nothing wrong with really committed work ethic. But what Wayne personally found out, God, now I'm talking third person. What I personally found out was, and my dad helped me understand this. So my dad was never in the lawn and landscaping business. He did corporate America all of his life, but he was in our business with us. But when he retired, but he never did this. And he told me one day, he said, Wayne, he said, this is a very unique business. He said, and he had some really decent, good jobs, retiring as vice president of a college here locally here, a company called Education Unlimited. They had 5 colleges, schools. But the reality of that is, I think he hit the nail on the head, or I know he hit the nail on the head when he said, this industry is different. And in order to survive in this industry, and he was in sales for many years of his life as well, he said, I think the solution for you and anybody in this industry really is to, number one, get a better handle on their cost. And number 2 is understand the value of free time and how that value of free time comes back to help your business. It's a mental reset when you've got some time off, so it's not just about taking a vacation once a year and know that, God, now I got 51 more weeks before I get any time off. And I hope it don't snow, or I hope it don't do this, or whatever it may be based on your market. But, the reality of it is we got to take time to smell the roses. And Katie actually keeps the thing. I turn to my head for you guys watching this on video. Over at her desk, she's got a picture of something that my dad wrote and gave her about work-life balance, and it basically what it boiled down to is, and it doesn't make it right or wrong because he said it, but what it boils down to is you got to take time to smell the roses. And, and if we don't, then you're going to, you and your family and your employees, and this same courtesy, let me say this, Daniel, this same courtesy has to be extended to your employees.
Right.
It's not about you taking off and doing what you like to do all the time, but giving them the opportunity to have free time to spend with their family, or go fishing, or go read a book sitting, under a shade tree, or whatever it is, or anything in between. The point is, don't just make this all about you. And this is why I think we've been somewhat successful in retaining employees here, and for a good number of years, is the fact that we respect their free time. They know when we got a hump, we hump, but they know that that's short term. We're not going to go, we're not going to hammer constantly, without the end in sight, regardless. I mean, whether it's a snow event or whether it's in the spring. This year we didn't have a lot of spring pressure because we didn't have a lot of rain like normal, so that pressure wasn't dealt with this year by a lot of contractors. But, like we said, it all boils back to money being the driving factor sometimes that causes us to want to work harder and grind more. And I just quickly put something together here while Daniel was talking, and y'all gonna think I'm a little bit crazy with this, but I think it's fairly accurate for a 4-minute compile the information in 4 minutes. I just looked at a 1-truck operation, and let's just say you're a 1-truck operation, working by yourself, no help. Okay. If you're $13 a labor hour off, which is a real number, it's a real number, because I know in working with too many different companies that's a real number. It's not a huge number, but it's a real number. But if you're $13 a labor hour off and you're only working 8 hours a day, right? That's $104 a day. If you only work 5 days a week, that's $520. And if you got a 37-week season, I know everybody's season's different based on, just the guys we got in here live with us, right? We got a lot of different areas covered in the country here, but I did it based on our season, a 37-week mowing season for us here in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. Based on 37 weeks at $520 a week, that's $19,240 as a one truck operation that you've got to recover just to get back to even.
Yeah, and as I think it was Mike who said it, I think earlier in the chat, said more work doesn't fix that issue. You know, and that's what people think. Oh, well,
that's what we thought.
Cash flow issues, or I'm having profit issues. I need to go sell more work. And then you're just another $27,000 down when you double your work or whatever. So,
and here's the thing out there for, you guys that are watching this on our replay, to think about. And that's one person about as low of hours worked as you could get. The reality of that number, it's a lot bigger number, but just like I do when I'm talking to a company individually, I don't want to create a huge number that's not believable. I mean, this is how many people really are only working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Not most, based on what you hear in the industry and what you see in the industry and what my experience was in the industry. So that $19,240, now you say, okay, well, I got one person that rides around in a truck and helps me. Now you've turned that $19,000 into almost $39,000 because you're doubling it. And the question or answer, however you want to look at it, is how nice would it be to have that extra money, not through doing more work and still being undercharging, but charging the right amount, doing less work, and being able to create a little work-life balance for you and your employees, whether it's 1 or 1 million or 100 or 1,000, it doesn't matter. The reality of it is we got to give ourselves the respect, our bodies, our mental state, our employees, our customers. When you look at it, you got to ask yourself, who do we owe it to have a good methodology in business, a good business plan, understanding cost per hour of operation, understanding how to bid a job, understanding the efficiencies on equipment. Who do we owe all the business side of the business to? Number one, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your business, you owe it to your employees, because they're counting on it as well. They're counting on your company to be successful. But they can't be successful if you're not positioning the company to be successful. So they're not going to stay. They're going to move on. And I feel real confident. That's why we've been fortunate to have a lot of guys here a long time, I mean, reality wise, and last but not least, in that group of 5, we owe it to our clients to have a good business model. Because if we have a good business model and we're not overscheduling our work, and we can give our customers the service and quality of work that they thought they were buying, what do they do at that point? What do they do at that point? It's a simple answer. They become more loyal. Because they didn't hire us for price, because the customers that hired us for price only, you guys know it, they're going to fire you for price. Next person that's $10 cheaper, they're going to hire them. But when somebody hires you based on the perceived value that they see or have heard of, whether it's coming through a referral or your hey man, your trucks are always clean, or your advertising looks good, and your job sites look good. Now the problem with that is job sites can look really nice, but a company be overworked in hours. Hell, that's where Wayne's Lawn Service was at. That's exactly where we were at. My brother ran a truck, I ran a truck, and this goes back a long time. And, we were doing a pretty good volume of work for the year, right? I mean, we were doing almost $300,000 in work back then, but we were spending 310, so it didn't matter. Our pricing structure wasn't right, so we were trying to fix it. To Mike's point, we were trying to fix it with more work. Well, what happens when you try to get more work? You run out of daylight, and when you run out of daylight, what happens? You don't get the job done. So now you're hurrying through the job to try to get the work done based on the load that you've got in the queue to get done, and you can't get it done. So you start cheating the system, and the quality of the job is sacrificed. So now you're not only not getting the work done, the quality's not right, you're losing customers because of it. So now you're having to replace more customers. What if, when you look at failure rates for our industry, 3 things that put us out of business: training, pricing for profit, and customer service and retention. When you look at those 3 things, training, pricing, and customer service and retention, those are the 3 things that are creating the biggest struggles for us. But what's the nice thing about all 3 of those? The nice thing about all 3 of those is that you control them. You control each and every one of those. What if we decided, hey, we're going to really have a better handle on our pricing? We're going to have a better handle on being more efficient. We're going to have a better handle on customer loyalty. Because here's what happens, and I've seen it work with my business, and I've seen it work with a lot of other companies that this happened, that had themselves turned around a little bit. Once you change your pricing structure a little bit, and generally it's not a huge change that has to take place. It's really not. It's usually not a huge pricing change that has to take place. But when you do change it, and now you can do less work, means we can spend more time on the job doing it right. Now the customer's happy. We've got less turnover in our customer base. There's always going to be attrition, but you got less turnover in your customer base because of quality of work, or not being able to get to them on time, or they get frustrated. Like, man, we've been waiting. Well, it rained 2 days. Well, why are you booking your work to where if you get a day of rain, you can't catch up in the same week? Because you're not charging enough. Your methodology is not right. So we control training, pricing, and customer service and retention. The 3 things that are our biggest struggles. So it's up to us. It's up to you to control it for your business. So that's when a guy tells me, or a girl tells me, a contractor tells me that, I think I'm good. I know I'm close, but no, I'm not 100% sure where I need to be. That is the first and foremost fundamental mistake that you will make in your business. Everything else can be perfect, but if you don't understand where that break-even point's at, I'm not going to tell you what you need to charge. Wayne's knowledge is going to tell you, hey, figure out where your break-even point is based on your overhead, your use rates, and your desired profit margin. What's the minimum amount you can do that job for? What you want to sell that job for above and beyond that is 100% up to you. So if you're in that mindset of, man, I'm close, but no, I really don't know, you owe it to yourself to know what it is. And hey, Are we $4 an hour off? Are we $6 an hour off? Are we $18 an hour off? Here's what I will guarantee 99.9% of you guys out there listening to us. A large portion of your jobs are probably okay. I know that's what I ran into when we finally sat down and did this for our company. You know, we had a lot of customers that were okay, but we had customers that weren't okay. And that's where, you know, somebody says, well, hey, where do I start? How do I start this conversion process? You don't start the conversion process with new work. You start the conversion process with who? You start it with your existing clientele. Because with your existing clientele, what do we know about them? We know two very important things. We know how long they take, and we know how much they pay if it's a reoccurring service job. Then you can say, okay, hey, this is what I thought I needed. This is what I need. This is what the customer's paying, and this is how long they take. Where's my break-even point in there? And wherever that break-even point is where you need to take your customer to and above and beyond for your desired profit margin. And you talk about something really setting you free. That's when you really begin to drive the bus for your company. It makes it a whole lot easier to know where that answer is when you understand the foundation of your company. Fred says too many guys convinced the market dictates their rates. 100%. 100% accurate. That is just 100% accurate, Fred. You know, what do you hear from guys? Well, Wayne, you don't know this is what I hear. Wayne, you don't know our market. Our market will never pay it. Boom. Right to Fred's point. Or, hey, my customers are used to paying this, you know, and I'm going to meet or beat pricing. We did a video on that. Is it up yet, Daniel? Not yet, but we just
no, not up yet.
Not yet, but we got a video
coming up for YouTube.
Yeah,
that one's not up yet.
We got one coming up on YouTube, but for that. But no, Fred's right on target. The market doesn't dictate the price. You know, you should dictate the price. The most powerful thing you're ever going to learn as a business owner is the power of saying no, that it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. You know, Mike makes a good point. He said, you know, the biggest issue is the wrong type of companies are setting the benchmark. That's it. That's it. You know, but the other reality of it is, as companies fall out of business, there's always a flow of new companies coming in that don't know what they don't know. So what does that tell you as a business owner? Yes, there is a lot of market input on inaccurate pricing. But what it also should tell you is you've got the power to change it for your company. Now you can say, well, Wayne, that's easy to say, harder to implement. Absolutely, it's harder to implement. But you know what? If it's easy, everybody'd be successful. It's not easy because people want to do it the wrong way. It's not because they're stupid. Hell, I'm going to step out on a branch and say I wasn't stupid. I just didn't know what I didn't know about the pricing structure of all my business. So, although the industry as a whole, I'd be willing to bet, and I have nothing to back this up other than my traveling and talking to companies. You know, I don't have any of that'd be official documentation, though. Hell, it was gained from the industry in our evaluation sheets from our seminars. So, yeah, I would be willing to say that it's in excess of 90%. Well, I know it is 100%. It's in excess of 90% of companies that don't know why they charge what they charge. And that's exactly why we named that the spreadsheet we got, know why you charge what you charge. It's basic. It's not software. It's not going to, you're not going to get rid of any software you're using. But what it will do is calculate your break even point for your company. And what you decide to do with that number after the fact is 100% up to you if you want to change things. But like I tell people all the time, up until the day that you knew, you didn't know what you didn't know. But once you know what you need to charge, now if you don't change, maybe you're flipping the switch and going over to the stupid side. I'm not calling anybody stupid. I'm just saying I wasn't stupid. I just didn't know what I didn't know till I had my epiphany on it. And when I had that epiphany on it for me, then what it did for me was set me free, set my business free. So give yourself the opportunity to be successful. Don't worry what everybody else is charging. Yes, you got to remain competitive. I get that. We got to remain competitive here in Louisville, Kentucky. You guys got to remain competitive in your markets. I get it. But the best thing you're ever going to do for yourself is to sit down and calculate your break-even point, cost per hour of operation for each and every service that you offer. So when you go out and you do bid your jobs, you know where yes is at, you know where no's at, and know that the most profitable thing or the most profitable word that you may ever learn is the opportunity to say no. We don't want the job. It doesn't fit. So with that being said, appreciate each and every one of you guys hopping on here today with us.